The HOA sent 3 bikers to my porch to scare my wife, and 3 minutes later they were begging me to stop. Yeah, that happened. Before you decide I'm some reckless tough guy, let me tell you how it really went down, because this isn't a story about fighting. It's a story about home. My name is Jack Tanner. I used to teach men how to fight and survive. Then I came home to a quiet piece of land my grandfather left me and tried to forget the noise. Long dirt drive hay that waves when the wind changes a house, set back so far you can hear your thoughts. My wife Sarah did 10 years as an EMT. She has the calm that settles a room. We keep our business small. We do the work. We pay our dues. We mind our own. The trouble started when the subdivision next door grew teeth. The Oak Ridge Meadows HOA had a face everyone knew: Karen Polson, all clipboard and rule book measuring lawns, like it was a calling. The person you didn't notice was her husband Frank, a polite shadow in a polo shirt former energy company lawyer who smiled like he knew too much. A legal quirk put our 100 acres under their charter, which meant the letters began to arrive. Tractor visible from the road. Grass too high. Fence not compliant. A drip of paper meant to feel like rain turning into flood. We ignored what we could, argued what we couldn't, and tried to keep living. Then the bikes came. Sarah was watering the porch plants when they rumbled up the driveway. No patches, just hard leather and hired eyes. One blocked the gate, one idled like a lookout, and the big one did the talking. You need to leave violation 1 week, all growl and theater. Sarah tapped record on her phone and gave him nothing back but steady eyes. When his hand moved toward her arm, I closed the distance. No shouting, no chest beating. Just what I was trained to do. Stop the threat and end the moment fast. He hit the dirt, clutching a wrist. He shouldn't have offered his partner folded over a knee. He shouldn't have put weight on the third rider, saw enough to flee. 3 minutes first step to last fall. Always record. Evidence is better than memory, and Sarah had the whole thing. One of them slipped a name through his teeth when the pain took his discipline away. Frank. Not Karen. Frank. That changed the weather in my head. See bullies announce themselves. Engineers of schemes rarely do. That night at our kitchen table, Sarah dug into public filings while I ran the day through my mind like a tape. Frank left Omnicorp a decade ago with a resume built on land acquisition and quiet paperwork. Sarah found the line in the HOA charter he'd written years back, a hook that let them claim first refusal if a property racked up chronic violations and hit a forced sale. Not about grass, about leverage. We pulled camera footage and found 2 men on our fence line at midnight, planting markers like they owned the earth, working with ground-penetrating radar and a magnetometer. Not hikers, not a new fence. A map. At dawn, I launched a drone I used to use overseas thermal camera on. From 100 feet up, the land tells on itself, and the woods lit up with a faint straight scar, flagged every 50 yards running from the state forest, deep into our property. In the brush, I found a rusted hatch, an old buried fuel tank, empty now, but placed like a landmark. Here's the twist, the one that changed the whole story in my head. This was never about a mailbox. Frank's old world was oil, not irrigation. And if you know how these people think, you know, they do not care about hay height. They care about what sits under your boots. We had the who and the how. We needed the why, and the why smelled like money. You don't sprint at a problem like that. You set a snare. We decided to comply so loudly, it would sound like surrender. I tore down the old tool shed, the notice-targeted shirt off in the sun, where every neighbor could see, and Sarah mailed a careful letter that read like a white flag, certified receipt and all. 2 days later, Frank showed up with cookies and sympathy. You know the type. Friendly voice, soft eyes. I just want peace. He nudged the conversation toward selling, toward friendly options, toward the kind of pressure that calls itself weather. The planter cam on the porch recorded every word. The plate he set down carried prints he didn't plan on leaving. He thought we were drowning. I told him I could swim. When men like Frank think you're weak, they send better wolves. We hardened the house, steel plates on their own power, generator and battery independent of the grid, floodlights that turn night into noon, tripwires that speak to a basement command. Sarah built with maps monitors and a calm voice in my ear at 1:17 a.m. The sensors pinged. 4 in the west perimeter. Power cut. Lockdown engaged. The pros moved like pros, quiet, disciplined, but they were playing a plan that assumed we were soft. 2 circled to the back windows, 2 posted on the porch with a small ram, and then they hit steel. I moved outside into the dark. I know, like a room in my own house. It was not a brawl. It was an extraction. 2 down without noise at the rear, the leader left alone out front, whispering into a radio that answered with nothing. I let him step inside when the plate lifted, then sealed him in with me. He emptied a magazine at shadows and silence. Then I stepped into the red glow, calm voice. No hero lines. He gave me what I needed to hear. Frank sent us. Sarah mirrored the audio to a cloud while the deputies rolled. We had the bodies alive, the confession clean, and a chain of custody that could stand in the daylight. What we didn't expect was Leo. He's our neighbor's kid. Pale, shy eyes that live on screens. He hates the HOA because they fined his parents over a basketball hoop, so he poked at their website like kids poke at fences. He found a door someone lazy left unlocked and walked right into the server, and there it was. The hidden folder labeled acquisition. Forged surveys moving our barn onto community land. A fake geological report declaring the soil unstable. A sale agreement to a shell called Meadowlands Development for $1. Ledger lines that moved HOA reserve funds into something called consulting. And while he was pulling files, he heard the audio stream Sarah was uploading from our living room. The kid ran through the night with a thumb drive in his hand and handed it to a deputy in our driveway like it was a relay baton. From that moment, it wasn't just our word against a rule book. It was paperwork against paperwork, and ours had signatures that wouldn't hold. The annual HOA meeting landed the following Saturday. Perfect stage. Karen opened with budgets and landscaping, then warmed up the crowd to vote us into court. I stood and pressed a single remote. Trespassers on the fence line. Drone footage of markers. Porch audio with Frank offering a friendly way out. Then the leader's voice from the raid. Frank will pay for this. Frank will kill you. The room changed temperature. We put the ledger up next. Outgoing payments to Meadowlands. Missing reserve funds that looked a whole lot like the pool budget. The final slide was the dollar sale. People didn't look at me after that. They looked at Frank. The sheriff walked in with warrants. Conspiracy fraud, aggravated assault. Karen cried that she didn't know. Maybe she didn't know about the oil. She knew about the bullying. The HOA collapsed in a day. The county unsealed surveys the local paper ran the oil angle, and a competitor to Omnicorp arrived with a contract that could change a life and a sunset you can't buy. We asked about environmental plans. We asked about community impact. Then we said no. You can call that stubborn. You can call it stupid. You can also call it peace. We built something else, a retreat for combat veterans where the barn became a workshop and the old tank became a root cellar stacked with food. We cleared the flagged trail into a path for quiet walks, where men who have seen too much can let the noise fall out of their ribs. Frank got 20 years. Karen got probation and a lifetime ban from committees, which might hurt her more. Oak Ridge formed a voluntary HOA like grown-ups, and their second act, after a written apology, was to give Leo a full scholarship. The kid comes over now and then plugs into our system's grins like he finally found a team. The new steel gate at the end of the drive carries a simple wooden sign, Tanner Veterans Retreat Private Property. People slow their cars and look up the lane, not with suspicion anymore, but with something like respect, maybe curiosity. What does it feel like to fight for a thing and win, then build something better on the ground where you stood your line? I can tell you, it feels like Sarah putting my hand on her belly one evening and whispering we're pregnant. It feels like a porch that used to be a battlefield becoming a place where laughter settles like dust after a long day. New house rule, she said, smiling. No biker visits after bedtime. You know what I mean. If you've ever been pushed by petty power or fought a quiet war for what's yours, tell me in the comments, would you have taken the money or stood your ground and built a life on it? What did I get right, and what would you have done different? I'll read every word.